Welcome back. You're watching Beyond World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and coming up on the show today, US President Donald Trump says that he has had very good talks with Iran over the past 24 hours with high possibility of a deal. Now, we mentioned that if Iran agrees, epic fury will end and the blockade will allow the Hormuz Strait to be open. Else, the bombing will restart. No deadline has been given on the deal yet. We're going to get you all the details on the show today. Stay tuned.
Also, right here on World DNA, we bring you details from India. The post-poll violence has escalated sharply in West Bengal. Within 48 hours of the West Bengal Assembly poll verdict, a close aide and personal assistant of BJP leader Suvendu Adhikari was shot dead in a brazen attack in North 24 Parganas. We'll bring you all the details as they emerge. Let's start with the headlines first.
We're going to get it.
How will you get it?
We're going to get it.
Donald Trump says US would obtain enriched uranium from Iran as the two countries attempt to reach an agreement on ending the war.
They want to make a deal. We've had very good talks over the last 24 hours, and it's very possible that we'll make a deal. Yeah.
Donald Trump says the recent talks with Iran have gone well and that a deal to reduce tensions in West Asia is very possible. Emphasizes that negotiations over the past 24 hours have been positive.
US military says a US warplane fires on and disables the rudder of an oil tanker that was attempting to breach blockade of Iranian ports. It is the second such incident since the blockade began on April 13th.
France releases footage of its Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier crossing Suez Canal as its carrier strike group deployed to the Red Sea. Move aims to pre-position for a potential mission to secure the Strait of Hormuz.
Police clashed with teachers in La Paz as protest group demonstrate ahead of government talks amid growing unrest over labor, education and agrarian reforms in Bolivia. Protesters throw objects at police who use tear gas to disperse them.
Asian markets surged on Thursday, led by Japan's Nikkei jumping more than 4% to a record high above 62,000. US futures were little changed after Wall Street closed at fresh record highs despite renewed West Asia tensions.
Scuffles break out in Paris as police use tear gas to disperse crowds during celebrations after PSG reached UEFA Champions League final. PSG draw 1-1 with Bayern Munich to secure a 6-5 aggregate win.
We begin with updates from India's West Bengal. The post-poll violence in the state has escalated. BJP leader Suvendu Adhikari's close aide and personal assistant Chandranath Rath has been shot dead in a targeted attack in North 24 Parganas.
Well, according to reports, Rath was returning to his home when his car was stopped by men in a vehicle in the Doharia area. A man came close to the car window and fired 3 rounds at him. While Rath died on the spot, his driver sustained serious injuries. Both were taken to the SSKM hospital in Kolkata, where Rath was declared brought dead.
Shortly after the incident, BJP leader Suvendu Adhikari reached the hospital where Rath's body was kept. He called the murder pre-planned and alleged that a recce was done for 2 to 3 days before this attack.
ওল ব্লাডেড মার্ডার মানে পূর্ব পরিকল্পিত ঠান্ডা মাথায় এই খুন সঙ্গিয়ে তো মারা হয়েছে বুঙ্গেরি কি আছে কেটেছে ইজিপির মুখ থেকে বলেছেন যে গত 2-3 দিন ধরে দেখি পরে একটি অল নাম্বার প্লেট লাগানো গাড়ি দিয়ে এটা করা হয়েছে তারা এটার নিষ্পত্তি করবেন আমরা গোটা রাজ্যে বিজেপি পরিবেশ করতে বা বিজেপি বিধায়ক সংসদকে যারা সহযোগিতা করেন তাদের প্রত্যেককে অনুরোধ করব আপনারা কেউ আইন হাতে।
Now, according to the West Bengal DGP, the car used in the murder had a false number plate. Police are currently examining eyewitnesses and further investigation is underway.
इन्वेस्टिगेशन हम लोगों ने स्टार्ट किया हुआ है।
We have started the investigation of the case. We have seized the four-wheeler used in the crime, but it is being reported that the number plate of the car is false and has been tampered with. We found live rounds and fired cartridges from the spot. The eyewitnesses and evidence are being processed and further investigation is underway.
कि वहाँ पर जो आई विटनेस थे और जो एविडेंस है उनको हम लोग प्रोसेस कर रहे हैं और इन्वेस्टिगेशन में आगे बढ़ना है।
Separately, another BJP worker, Rohit Roy, has been reportedly shot at, allegedly by TMC sheltered miscreants in the Basirhat area of North 24 Parganas. The victim has been moved to the state-run hospital with bullet injuries in his abdominal area, where his condition is reported to be critical but stable as of now.
Meanwhile, the Trinamool Congress has put out a post on X condemning the murder of Suvendu's personal assistant and 3 of its workers in alleged incidents of post-poll violence.
Well, the party has demanded the strongest possible action, including a court-monitored CBI probe into the murder, saying that violence and political killings have no place in a democracy.
Well, West Bengal has a history of political violence, with the state witnessing brutal post-poll violence on several occasions in the past. The National Human Rights Commission had documented at least 29 murders in the state after the 2021 assembly elections. The BJP, which was then in the opposition, had claimed that over 100 party workers were killed in attacks by the TMC.
And for more on this, our correspondent Dharamjot Kaur sent us details.
It's been a very long night in West Bengal's North 24 Parganas district, where BJP leader Suvendu Adhikari's personal assistant was shot dead late last night. Now, police and security presence in the area has been very, very heavy for the past few hours ever since this incident unfolded. We're also finding out that police has recovered a car which is Siliguri registered. They've also recovered bullet cells, and it is being said that it is likely that 5 to 8 people were involved in this incident who came on bikes, and it appears to be a planned shooting that took place late last night. Now, the driver of the vehicle who was driving the car in which Suvendu Adhikari's personal assistant was there, he has also sustained several bullet injuries, and he's being treated in a private hospital. And the TMC, on the other hand, has also put out a tweet. They've shared a post on social media late last night where they condemned this entire incident and have asked for a CBI inquiry to take place. Now, the BJP officials, on the other hand, are claiming that it was TMC workers and Mamata and Abhishek Banerjee who are behind this shooting. Of course, this is at the moment a claim, and since investigation is underway, there is no confirmation on who exactly those assailants were and what the entire motive of the shooting was. But West Bengal has been known for violence during elections in the past, and although this particular election was relatively very peaceful, there have been sporadic instances of clashes between workers of the two parties and vandalism of property. This incident, however, takes a very, very tragic turn in terms of the entire atmosphere in West Bengal. And it remains to be seen how the investigation and everything else progresses just in the aftermath of the election mandate being delivered.
And US President Donald Trump says that he believes a deal with Iran is very much possible, but threatened to again bomb the country if negotiations fell apart.
But Iran is yet to respond to a new US proposal to end the war, with its chief negotiator warning that Washington was seeking to force the Islamic Republic's surrender. Talking to reporters, President Trump said that US has had very good talks with Iran over the past 24 hours. But there's no deadline for when he expects to hear back from Tehran.
And this is, if it's in a red state, we're going there too. So I think we won. Now it's only a question of, look, if we left right now Iran, it would take them 20 years to rebuild. You would call that, we're in good shape, right?
Fantastic.
We're in good shape. And now we're doing well. Now we have to get what we have to get. If we don't do that, we'll have to go a big step further. But with that being said, they want to make a deal. We've had very good talks over the last 24 hours, and it's very possible that we'll make a deal. Yeah.
Earlier in the day, Trump had sounded more pessimistic about the chances of a deal. In a Truth Social post, he threatened to restart the US bombing campaign in Iran, calling the possibility of Tehran agreeing to the latest US proposal a big assumption.
Well, shortly after President Trump's post, the US military announced that it has fired on an Iranian-flagged oil tanker and disabled its rudder. US Central Command said that the ship was trying to breach the US blockade of Iranian ports. Trump has halted a short-lived military operation to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, raising hopes for a deal.
Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghei told local media that the US plan and the US proposal, they are still under review by the Iranian side. Tehran would communicate its position to mediator Pakistan after finalizing its views.
Meanwhile, Mohammad Baghei Ghalibaf, Iran's parliament speaker, who has taken the lead in negotiations, he has warned that Washington is seeking economic pressure and media manipulation through a naval blockade and wants to destroy the country's cohesion in order to force Iran to surrender.
Ghalibaf also appeared to mock reports that indicated the two sides were close to a deal, writing on social media. He wrote this post in English, and he calls it Operation Trust Me Bro, has failed. He said such reports amounted to US spin following its failure to open the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, earlier on Wednesday, Axios reported that Washington and Tehran were close to agreeing on a one-page memorandum of understanding to end the war. The report said that the US expected Iran to respond to several key points in the next 48 hours. It was unclear how the memorandum differs from a 14-point plan proposed by Iran last week.
Well, Iranian lawmaker Ibrahim Rezai, a spokesperson for Parliament's powerful Foreign Policy and National Security Committee, described the text as more of an American wish list than reality.
And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen in.
President Trump says that the United States has had, quote unquote, good talks with Iranian negotiators and claims that Iran has agreed that it can't have a nuclear weapon. Iran and the United States are now working through mediators on a possible one-page framework memorandum that could restart formal negotiations as early as next week in Islamabad. This, according to multiple reporters who spoke with President Trump on the phone on Wednesday. But the devil's in the detail. President Trump warned that if Tehran refuses a deal, the United States could very well resume bombing Iran at what he called, quote unquote, a much higher level of intensity. Markets reacted positively to the diplomatic momentum, with oil prices falling sharply. Both Washington and Tehran at this point seem to be looking for some kind of off-ramp, and the timing of the president's comments are significant. After all, they come as the U.S. president gets ready to visit Beijing, where Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi paid a visit as well. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Meanwhile, Iran's foreign ministry has reiterated that the country's national football team will participate in the FIFA World Cup matches in the United States.
Well, it called on FIFA to provide the appropriate and necessary conditions for the Iranian national team's participation. Listen to this.
The national team is not going to the US for traveling. We are going there for participating in the World Cup. So it is the responsibility of FIFA to create the appropriate necessary conditions, and we hope that FIFA does this for saving their own reputation. Some of the events of recent days have also not been favorable to FIFA's image.
Well, uncertainty surrounds Iran's participation at the FIFA World Cup, despite FIFA's assertions. Iran is scheduled to play all its group stage matches in the United States, 2 in Los Angeles and 1 in Seattle.
Earlier, an Iranian football delegation had returned home from the Toronto airport following an alleged insult from immigration authorities. Now, the delegation was in Canada last week for the annual FIFA Congress in Vancouver. Iran was the only FIFA federation among the 211 member countries that did not have representation at the Congress.
Now, Canada's immigration minister later confirmed that the visa of Iranian football chief Mehdi Taj was cancelled over links to the Iran's Revolutionary Guards.
Taj is a former member of the IRGC. Canada listed the IRGC as a terrorist entity in 2024, 5 years after the US did the same. Following the incident, Taj called for respect towards the IRGC. And this is what he said, I quote, "We need a guarantee for our trip that they have no right to insult the symbols of our system, especially the IRGC. And this is something they must pay serious attention to. If there is such a guarantee and the responsibility is clearly assumed, then an incident like what happened in Canada will not happen again. We are going to the World Cup for which we qualified, and our hosts are FIFA, not Mr. Trump or America."
Well, the US has made its stance clear regarding the Iranian football contingent. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said last month that the team can travel to the World Cup, but no individual with ties to the IRGC would be granted entry into the United States.
There's nothing from the U.S. has told them they can't come. I mean, the problem with Iran, it would be not their athletes. It would be some of the other people that would want to bring with them, some of whom have ties to the IRGC. We may not be able to let them in, but not the athletes themselves. But no one's, I don't know where that's coming from, other than speculation that Iran may decide not to come, and then Italy would fill their spot. But that's, if they decide not to come on their own, it's because they decided not to come. What they can't bring is a bunch of IRGC terrorists into our country and pretend that they're, journalists and athletic trainers.
And FIFA Secretary General Matthias Grafstrom has expressed disappointment over the incident in Canada and has invited the Iranian Football Federation to Zurich for a meeting on the 20th of May about their World Cup preparations. All right, now shifting our focus to another flashpoint, Russia has warned foreign embassies to evacuate staff from Kiev, threatening retaliatory strikes against decision-making centers on the Ukrainian capital. And this is if Moscow's May 9th Victory Day celebrations are disrupted. Now, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova lashed out at European governments backing Ukraine, accusing them of ignoring what Moscow called escalating terrorist activity by Kiev ahead of the celebrations.
In case the European Union countries think they can silence the public threats that have been made. As the saying goes, if they think they can sweep Zelensky's aggressive statements under the rug, they are gravely mistaken. By arming Ukraine, they become accomplices in the criminal plans of the Kyiv regime.
Now, these warnings follow remarks by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky earlier this week, when he said the Kremlin now fears Ukrainian drones could buzz over Red Square, where World War II victory parade unfolds every year. This year, however, Moscow has scaled down the celebrations, citing growing security concerns.
Meanwhile, Ukraine accuses Russia of ignoring Kiev's unilateral ceasefire as Moscow continues to intensify attacks. In the northeastern city of Sumy, 2 people were killed after Russian drones struck a kindergarten building.
Truce? There will be no truce, not in our lifetime and not in yours.
In Kharkiv, strikes damaged civilian homes and sparked fires as emergency crews struggle to respond. The United Nations says at least 30 civilians were killed and around 170 injured in Russian attacks between Tuesday and Wednesday.
Ukraine says Russia launched more than 100 drones and several missiles overnight. Ukrainian President Zelensky warned they would respond in kind to continued Russian strikes, taking a jab at Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Ukraine will act in kind. Depending on the situation overnight and tomorrow, we will also determine our fully justified responses. Russia has received from us a clear proposal on silence of the guns and diplomacy, and knows how to contact Ukraine or our partners in order to coordinate the details. If the one person in Moscow who cannot live without war cares only about one parade and nothing else, that's a different story.
A US federal judge has unsealed a purported suicide note from late Jeffrey Epstein.
And the unverified and undated document was placed on the court docket in the case of a former cellmate of the late convicted sex offender. Epstein's cellmate claims that he found the letter in a book following a failed suicide attempt by the disgraced financier several weeks before his eventual death in August 2019.
Well, the text of the letter written on lined paper, it reads, I quote from it here, "They investigated me for months, found nothing. It is a treat to be able to choose one's time to say goodbye." The text then concludes with, "What do you want me to do? Bust out crying? No fun, not worth it."
Now, the letter had been unsealed for years. It had been sealed for years as part of the cellmate's criminal proceedings, but was released by Judge Kenneth Karras of the U.S. District Court for Southern New York after a request by the New York Times. Epstein was found injured in his cell in late July 2019 in what officials said was a failed suicide attempt. Weeks before he was found dead in his cell, a medical examiner ruled that he died by suicide.
Now, the court's release of the record comes after the Justice Department released millions of documents related to Epstein. The U.S. lawmakers are also running an investigation into the late financiers.
U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is latest to be quizzed over his ties with Epstein. After a closed-door deposition, Democratic lawmakers accused Lutnick of lying to Congress and helping cover up Epstein's crimes.
Now, the deposition centered heavily on Lutnick's previously disclosed 2012 visit to Epstein's private Caribbean island, which came years after Epstein's abuse was already public knowledge. Lutnick acknowledged during a Senate hearing earlier in the year that he had visited the island with family members.
After what we have seen so far in this transcribed interview, I feel very comfortable saying that Howard Lutnick is a pathological liar who is enabling the most egregious cover-up in American history.
Resign. That was absolutely mind-boggling what we just heard in the room. He was evasive, nervous, he was dishonest. He would not admit to lying, which he clearly did in the podcast. He said he was never in the room with Jeffrey Epstein ever again after the first time he met him, yet.
California Democrat Ro Khanna also accused Lutnick of misleading the public and suggested his testimony raised fresh questions about whether details about Epstein's activities were being concealed. Khanna added, and I'm quoting him here, "Now we know why that interview was not videotaped. If Donald Trump had seen the video transcript, he would have fired Howard Lutnick." Well, school bullies in Singapore could now face caning under new disciplinary guidelines.
Now, but the country's education minister says that this punishment will only be used as a last resort with strict safeguards in place. The move has sparked renewed debate over corporal punishment, which remains legal in Singapore's schools and justice system. The new guidelines introduced last month allow schools to impose between 1 and 3 strokes of the cane for serious misconduct, including bullying. Caning will be approved by the school principal and carried out only by authorized staff. Schools are also required to consider factors like a student's maturity and whether the punishment will help them understand the seriousness of their actions. The punishment applies only to boys aged 9 and above, in line with Singapore's Criminal Procedure Code, which prohibits caning for women. Caning will not be applied as a first-time punishment, and schools will be expected to provide counseling to students.
Now, human rights groups have long criticized Singapore's use of corporal punishment, warning that it can cause harm without proven benefits. According to a World Health Organization report last year, there is an overwhelming scientific evidence that corporal punishment for children carries multiple risks to children and has no benefits. But Singaporean authorities maintain it remains an effective deterrent against serious misconduct. And with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break on World DNA.
Don't go anywhere. This is World DNA. We will be back on the other side. India and Vietnam have elevated their enhanced comprehensive strategic partnership as Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a bilateral talk with Vietnamese President in New Delhi. We'll bring you all the details on that. Stay with us. This is WION World is One. Come right back.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One. Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
breaking
missiles
news.
And raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
Welcome back. You're watching World DNA with Deeksha. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss on this side of the show. More reports coming in. Let's start with the headlines first.
At least 13 people, including a child, injured in a Ukrainian attack on Russian border city of Bryansk. Overnight strike hits residential areas, damaging apartment buildings. Dozens of flats and multiple vehicles.
We're going to get it.
How will you get it?
We're going to get it.
That was Donald Trump says US would obtain enriched uranium from Iran as the two countries attempt to reach an agreement on ending the war.
US military says a US warplane fires on and disables the rudder of an oil tanker that was attempting to breach blockade of Iranian ports. This is the second such incident since the blockade began on April 13th.
France releases footage of its Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier crossing Suez Canal as the strike group deployed to the Red Sea. The move aims to pre-position for a potential mission to secure the Strait of Hormuz.
Gaza health officials say Israeli strikes killed 6 people and wound several others across the Palestinian territory. A strike in Al-Daraj kills 1 person and injures 10 others, including the son of Hamas chief negotiator Khalil al-Hayya.
Indian Army and Air Force released a video to mark the first anniversary of Operation Sindoor, reiterating its stance that India will track, identify and punish terrorists and their supporters.
A US judge releases a note purportedly written by convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein weeks before his 2019 death, mentioning investigators found nothing and choosing one's time to say goodbye.
South Korean appeals court in Seoul reduces the prison sentence of former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo to 15 years, down from 23 years for crimes linked to former President Yoon Suk-yeol's 2024 martial law declaration.
And South Korea's stock market has overtaken Canada to become the world's 7th largest, driven by a powerful rally in tech and semiconductor stocks. The surge reflects strong investor demand linked to AI growth in chip makers like Samsung. The Indian Air Force has released a video marking the first anniversary of Operation Sindoor.
Well, the video was posted on X with the title, India Forgets Nothing, India Forgives Nothing. The 1-minute 28-second video was posted at exactly 1:05 a.m., the same time the operation started on the intervening night of May 6th and 7th last year.
Now, the video opens with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's statement in which he warns terrorists and their handlers. The video then shows the tri-services preparing for Operation Sindoor and destroying terror launch pads in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The video ends with the message that Operation Sindoor still continues.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also shared a video showcasing the valour of India's armed forces. The Defence Minister called the operation a powerful symbol of national resolve and preparedness.
Now, on the night of May 6th and 7th last year, Indian armed forces had launched Operation Sindhu to avenge the Pahalgam terror attack, in which 26 innocent lives were lost. Within 25 minutes of the operation, 9 terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir were obliterated. The strikes targeted terror facilities linked to Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed.
ये नुकसान ये 9 number
Over 100 terrorists were reportedly killed in the operation. Among the casualties were 10 relatives of Jaish-e-Mohammed chief and most wanted terrorist Masood Azhar.
Sadiq और Shafaq. सर ये ऊपर गए. बस इधर.
India and Vietnam, they have elevated their relationship to an enhanced comprehensive strategic partnership.
While Indian and Vietnamese officials signed several cooperation agreements in New Delhi, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also held bilateral talks with Vietnamese President To Lam in the national capital.
India has also confirmed the discussion on the BrahMos with Vietnam, stating that a strong relationship between the two nations will result in stronger Indo-Pacific. Listen to this.
On BrahMos, in this broad context, I want to broadly state that Vietnam is a very important partner for us in the Indo-Pacific, and all these areas that we cooperate in are based on the broad premise that a strong Vietnam will serve the cause of peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. We do talk about a number of platforms, and the BrahMos platform is also one of them. And watch this space.
Both nations have set an ambitious $25 billion annual trade target by 2030. The bilateral trade between Indian and Vietnamese countries was around US $16.4 billion for the financial year 2025 to 26.
Well, welcoming President Lam, Prime Minister Modi noted that Lam visited India within a month of becoming president, and the Indian Prime Minister said that President Lam's visit, along with a high-level delegation, clearly reflects the priority he attaches to the India-Vietnam relations. Lam also echoed similar sentiments.
We will elevate defense and security cooperation to become a strategic pillar to contribute to peace and stability. We will also bring about stronger change in economic cooperation, trade cooperation and investment to better supply chain connectivity, removing barriers and expanding more access to our markets. Science, technology, innovation and digital transformation will be a new driver for cooperation, opening up new high-value added areas.
And Japan's decision to join Balikatan military drills has irked China.
The war games usually involve Philippines and US forces, but this time, Japan with Canada, Australia, France and New Zealand have also joined. More than 1,400 Japanese troops are part of the exercise.
Well, in the latest, Japanese forces fired a Type 88 anti-ship missile, hitting a decommissioned Philippine Navy ship in waters facing the disputed South China Sea. The drills are taking place as Manila and Tokyo are in discussion for a potential defense equipment transfer. Japan's decision to lift restrictions on military exports has opened the way for such negotiations.
Responding to this, spokesperson for China's foreign ministry, Lin Jian, accused that Japan's right-wing forces are pushing to accelerate remilitarization. Lin also said that rising neo-militarism in Japan is threatening regional peace. Listen to this.
The long overdue historical education, fundamental errors in historical perspectives, and the strategic pursuit of military strengthening and war preparedness have collectively contributed to the emergence of neo-militarism in Japan, posing a threat to regional peace and stability.
As rival countries flex their military muscle, China is also showcasing its naval capabilities. Beijing recently released a footage of conducting strike tests at sea using its anti-ship ballistic missile YJ-20.
Now, YJ-20 is also known as Eagle Strike 20, with a diameter of less than 1 meter. It has the capability of reaching the speed of Mach 10 in terminal phase. China's Eagle Strike has the range of 1,000 to 1,500 kilometers. It has a solid fuel rocket engine and can be launched from ships or aircraft, which are designed to critically damage large vessels.
But Beijing routinely criticizes Manila's joint military exercises with allies, saying they heighten regional tensions. But Japan is undergoing its most significant military expansion since World War II, shifting from strict post-war pacifism to a proactive defense posture.
All right, and moving on, Thailand is reminding visitors that paradise still comes with rules.
And this was after a string of public indecency incidents involving foreign tourists. Authorities say they are stepping up oversight to protect the country's image. Officials in Bangkok said tourists caught engaging in inappropriate behavior, including public sexual acts and illegal drug use, it could face prosecution now, deportation and even blacklisting. The warning comes after a couple was allegedly caught performing a sexual act inside an auto in the popular tourist hotspot of Phuket. Officials say they are also working to revoke the couple's visas before deporting them from the country.
Now, Thai Prime Minister's office said that the crackdown is aimed at protecting what it called the country's beautiful cultural values. Authorities also plan to increase checks at entertainment venues and tourist hotspots.
While Thailand is globally known for its nightlife and beach tourism, the country remains socially conservative in many ways, and public displays of affection are often frowned upon. The latest case follows several similar incidents in recent months. Just last month, a French couple was arrested and also deported after videos allegedly showing them having in a sexual act on a Phuket beach went viral online. Earlier this year, another French couple was blacklisted after a similar incident sparked outrage on social media.
Well, tourism remains a major pillar of Thailand's economy. The government expects around 33.5 million foreign visitors this year, which is slightly higher than 2025 numbers. However, according to Tourism Ministry figures, total tourist arrivals dropped 7% in April as compared to the same month last year, with visitors from Europe declining nearly 16% that month.
Bali is submerged in waste. Trash is piling up on the streets, and its largest landfill has been declared off limits for organic waste.
Now, with a long-standing ban on open dumping to prevent landfill collapses and fires, this sudden restriction has sparked a severe garbage crisis with few immediate alternatives in place. The deepening waste crisis has put Indonesia's international reputation at stake. The accumulation of trash is negatively impacting Bali's vital tourism sector, raising concerns about visitor experience.
A big problem because we have such a nice island and the trash everywhere. It's so, you must respect the nature, and that's a problem, I think.
On the 1st of April, the Bali provincial government enacted a ban on organic waste at the Suvendu landfill, a site that has operated for more than 4 decades. Officials say the landfill will only receive residual waste until the end of July before closing permanently in August this year. But Bali's waste challenge, it remains highly visible beyond the landfill as well, especially in its most visited tourist areas. Many tourists even say that responsible waste management is essential for destinations like Bali.
Tentu saya sangat setuju sekali ya.
Really agree, because waste sorting has many benefits. Besides, we can find out where organic waste, where plastic waste, where waste that can be recycled to be transferred to others. This sorting makes people more disciplined, because if the waste is mixed, of course the officers at the TPA will face difficulties processing it.
Masyarakat itu supaya lebih disiplin.
Indonesia has banned open landfills since 2013, but it is only now attempting to fully implement the measure. Authorities are now urging households to sort waste at home and make greater use of community-based facilities such as integrated waste processing sites before actual solutions can be put in place. The global oil shock is hitting the skies as tensions escalate in West Asia. Surging crude prices are pushing jet fuel costs sharply higher.
The aviation industry is now entering a fresh phase of turbulence, one that could mean fewer flights and costlier travel for passengers worldwide. So before planning your next trip, take a look at this next one.
The escalating West Asia conflict is now spilling into global aviation, as crude oil prices surge and jet fuel becomes significantly more expensive. Aviation turbine fuel, which makes up as much as 30 to 40% of airline operating costs, has seen sharp increases worldwide. In Europe, jet fuel prices have risen over 120% in a matter of weeks, while in India, ATF prices are up nearly 25%. The disruption of supplies through the Strait of Hormuz has triggered volatility across markets. Airlines are now facing a dual challenge of rising fuel costs and constrained supply, forcing them to reassess operations globally.
The implications of this situation are not limited to the loss of a single flight to Modlin from Sharjah. They also affect jet fuel prices and the availability of jet fuel itself, which the entire industry may experience this summer. Even though our carriers have hedging agreements in place and have secured fixed fuel prices and availability for this year, we are aware that this will be a global problem this year.
Airlines across regions are already responding with capacity cuts and fare increases. Air India has announced a reduction of nearly 100 flights daily, trimming close to 10% of its total operations, including key international routes. Globally, carriers like Lufthansa plan to cut up to 20,000 flights, while over 30,000 services have already been cancelled in the Gulf since the conflict began.
The largest issue facing airlines is not the cost of airline tickets rising as a result of the price increase in kerosene, which they will undoubtedly pass on to travelers. The biggest problem is rather the potential physical unavailability of kerosene.
The pressure is especially intense for low-cost carriers with limited margins. In the United States, Spirit Airlines has shut down operations after 34 years, putting around 17,000 jobs at risk. Even airlines with hedging strategies are facing rising costs, with partial fuel exposure leading to significant financial strain. The ripple effects are now being felt across passengers, cargo, and employment. Airfares, particularly on long-haul routes, have surged as airlines pass on higher fuel costs. Capacity cuts are also reducing seat availability and increasing travel disruptions. Cargo fares are expected to rise as fewer passenger flights limit freight capacity. If the oil crisis persists, more airlines may be forced to cut routes, delay expansion, or restructure operations, signaling deeper turbulence ahead for global aviation. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
And a new study has found that strict bans on mobile phones in schools have shown little impact.
And this is on students' learning, be it attendance or even online bullying. The study notes that even with phones locked away, academic outcomes remain largely unchanged.
Well, the study conducted by researchers from universities including Stanford and Duke and published by the National Bureau of Economic Research analyzed nearly 1,800 secondary schools across the US. In these schools, students were required to place their phones in locked magnetic pouches, limiting access throughout school hours. But the findings show little difference between schools with strict mobile phone bans and those without these bans.
Now, for academic performance, the report states that average impact on test scores were close to zero. The study finds there was a significant drop in phone usage by the third year of implementing a ban, but lower screen time did not lead to improved academic results or better outcomes in areas like attendance or well-being. In fact, suspensions increased and students' well-being dipped in the first year. Researchers say that these effects were temporary as schools adapted to the new rules.
Over time, disciplinary impacts eased and student well-being improved in later years of implementing the ban. However, the results come as a setback for campaigners in the UK who have backed government plans to restrict mobile phone use in schools. The UK government is expected to introduce a ban from next year, with new laws making restrictions a requirement in state schools. However, one of the study's authors, Professor Thomas D. of Stanford University, says the findings should not discourage policymakers from taking action.
All right, now shifting our focus to the world of sports, India has formalized the sports policy this is for ties with Pakistan.
Well, the new policy clearly bars any bilateral ties but opens the door for Pakistani athletes to compete in India at international sporting events. The Sports Ministry has confirmed that Pakistani players and teams will be allowed to participate in multilateral events hosted by India, while also signalling a more supportive visa regime for athletes, officials and international federation representatives. Office bearers of international sports governing bodies will be granted multi-entry visas. This development comes as India is all set to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games and has also made an aggressive pitch to host the 2036 Summer Olympics as well as the 2038 Asian Games in a bid to burnish its credentials as a growing sporting power.
However, the policy draws a firm line between bilateral and multilateral sport. Remember, no bilateral cricket has taken place between India and Pakistan since 2012 to 13, and the two teams only play each other in multi-team tournaments.
Next up, let's get you the latest updates from entertainment, starting with the first teaser trailer of the Legally Blonde prequel, Elle. It has arrived. Lexi Mindtree plays the role of young Ellie Woods. Set in the mid-90s, the preview follows a younger Elle as she navigates social hierarchies and formative heartbreaks long before her law school ambitions took hold. Produced by Reese Witherspoon herself, the project serves as a nostalgic origin story exploring how the bubbly protagonist developed her signature confidence and ironclad sense of justice.
And a new trailer has dropped for a deeply personal documentary chronicling the life of pop royalty Kylie Minogue. Titled simply Kylie, the footage promises a rare, unfiltered look at her 4 decades in the spotlight. The preview highlights a mix of never-seen-before archival footage and raw interviews covering everything from her early days in the Australian spotlight to her resilience through personal health battles and her status as a global dance floor pioneer.
But I just wanted to be with my sister. Music kept us going.
Kylie is this force.
Season 5 of the Emmy-winning series The Bear will be its final season. The final installment is set to premiere on the 25th of June, created by Christopher Storer. The series debuted in 2022 and follows a fine dining chef who returns home to Chicago to run his family's struggling sandwich shop. The Bear has earned acclaim for its sharp wit and unflinching exploration of trauma, grappling with themes such as suicide, alcoholism, and anxiety, while balancing intensity with humor.
And a humanoid robot has made history in South Korea by becoming the country's first non-human to take part in a Buddhist precept ceremony.
Well, joining monks in prayers in Seoul, that's what this eventual story is going to show you. And we leave you with these visuals. Short break after that. That's a wrap on World DNA for today. Stay with us.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is One.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One. Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
Vielleicht nur auf dem Ausland.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Adya Juneja and this is Speed News. Let's start with all the stories making headlines today.